Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to OMAF 10. My name is Mike Day. I am a filmmaker. I work for Springdale School District, and I am happy, so happy that y'all are here today. Today we have filmmaker, artist Jess Carson, who is actually from Little Rock. She currently resides in Los Angeles, and get this, she works for the CW's The Flash. She is a writer. She is a great friend of mine, and I am so happy that she is here with us today. So I'll stop doing the talking. We'll get straight to the main event. And Carson, if you can unmute yourself, take it away.
Okay, thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to get into this and to chat with you. There will be a couple of sections where there'll be questions. So as we go, if you could please just type your questions in the chat box, and Mike will have pull a couple out with these sections. We won't have time to go through all the questions, but we can through as many as we can. So I'm just going to start with telling you a little bit about me. I am, like Mike said, I'm from Little Rock. I was born and raised there. Left in 2015 to go out and try to do this thing, to do this filmmaking thing. Started out working in digital marketing for a while, did a few short films while I was working a day job, built a portfolio, and then moved to California as things started moving forward, and was able to get writing off what Broadway musicals starring Gary Busey, and working on a feature debut now, working on a couple of adaptations, and lucky enough, like Mike said, to be writing on CW's The Flash currently. And that's me in a nutshell. So I won't spend too much time there, and we'll just move on, getting into what you're really here for. So I'm gonna start just with a kind of a section of what I wish I knew when I started this game, when I started this thing. So the first thing to know, the first thing I wish someone would have told me when I first started was there is no right way into this industry, but you can prepare yourself. The first thing to note is, this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a long process. Got to be ready and willing to take the dive and to take that leap of faith. Overall, from me making my first short film to getting onto The Flash, it took me just about a decade. I'm not saying it's going to take everyone that long, or if it won't take people longer, but I will say it is a process. So you have to just be ready and willing to fight and to move forward. The other thing I would say is you got to be just as passionate as you are tough. Know who you are, know what you want. The people who I see make it in this industry are those who are very confident and have a strong sense of self. And when I say confident, I don't mean outgoing or boisterous, or you don't have to be. I'm one of the biggest introverts there is. But I do know who I am. I know my voice and I know my brand, and we'll get into brand in a moment. But just make sure you know exactly who you are, you know what you want to do, and make sure you're ready and willing to stick to those guns, because that's going to really pave you a path to success. Another thing I like to tell people who are just breaking in, something I wish I would have known, is that no, the word no is your new best friend. It's not an enemy of yours, it's your new best friend. This industry is a numbers game. The more doors you knock on, the higher your chances of getting a yes. And you can get all the no's in the world, but you only need one yes. So I would say every no is a closer step to yes. So just be ready for that. I wish someone would have told me that. It would have done wonders for my own self-confidence, to just know that you're gonna hear no a lot, but that doesn't mean stop, just keep going. I would say time management is another one of your greatest tools. Clock in, clock out, just like when you're working on a film, when you're working on a script, when you're working on whatever kind of media project you're working on, is that think about it as in clocking in and clocking out. I have an alarm on my phone that is like writing time, and you want to clock in, clock out, because one day you want this to be your job. So why not start treating it like that? And I would also say pace yourself. Don't rush. This industry is not going anywhere. In fact, it's doing quite the opposite. It's always looking for new voices, always looking for, those fresh takes on ideas. So you don't have to hurry up and get there, because it's gonna be here no matter how long it takes you. if you're the type of person who creates or you write or you film or you plan on filming something on a schedule, you have a block of time where you're creative, stick to it. If you don't want to stick to a schedule, don't make a schedule at all. Write whenever you feel like writing, you know, come up with your creative ideas whenever you have time to do so, whiteboard whenever you have time to do so, or do it on a schedule. But I would say stick to one or the other. And then just remember that you are in control of your own destiny. There's going to be a lot of times where people might try to mold you into something that's easy for them, but in the long run, it's not going to actually be what you want to do. So I would say, make sure, again, this goes back to knowing exactly who you are. Make sure you remember that you are in control of your own career. Sometimes that might make it a little harder, but I promise it'll be worth it in the long run. So I mentioned earlier, brand. What does that mean? You are a product, essentially. You are a company. Think of yourself like a company. Every company has a brand. Every company, you know, not necessarily a logo, but there's a brand in every company, right? When you think about a Ben & Jerry's, you know, they're going to be great ice cream, sure, but on the other hand, they're socially conscious, versus Yarnell, which is like, this is the Southern ice cream. This is home. That ice cream represents home. That's who they are. You think about Yarnell's, you think about home. So who are you as an artist? What kind of things do you create? Are you a specific genre? Now, remember, brand isn't limited to genre. Me saying, think about your brand does not mean me saying, I am Jess Carson, I am a sci-fi writer. That's not a brand. I am Jess Carson, I write socially conscious character and theme-driven stories. Well, that opens the door to a lot of things. That could mean sci-fi, that could mean drama, that could mean action, that could mean anything. So think about what you want to say as an artist. Do you want to make people laugh but talk about serious things? You think about, you know, a Judd Apatow. He creates some of the most hilarious things out there, but every single one of his films is talking about the life of people who are middle-aged or who are in their 40s or who are in their 50s, stories that we don't normally see because those narratives are important. That's Judd Apatow's brand. So figure out what your brand is, stick to that as well, and you'll see success in the end. So you're starting to hear these no's, it's starting to wear on you. What do you do? First thing I would say, something again that I wish I knew. Your support system is going to be the best thing that you can ever have going into this industry and trying to break in. It could be your friends, it could be your family, whatever. Your support system is something that's extremely important. Those are the people who are going to champion you through everything. And, you know, they're going to tell it to you like it is. If they're not being honest with you, they're not really in your support system, right? And this also shows you that you're not in it alone. If you're a filmmaker who does a lot of projects like guerrilla style and lean, and maybe you're editing by yourself, you know, or if you're a writer, a lot of times you're isolated and you might feel like you're by yourself when you're trying to, you know, it's you against the world, right? Your support system is there to let you know, no. Not only are you not alone, you have people who are like, no, you should be in this industry. You should make this. So your support system is extremely important. On the flip side of that, I would also say weed out negativity, because anyone who's made a film, you know that we are probably the hardest people on ourselves. You don't need other people being negative to you as well. Those toxic connections, mind you, could be people you're close to, right? Not everyone's going to understand your dream. You know, being skeptical or being, you know, cautious about what you're doing is one thing. Being toxic and completely negative about it is another. So, you know, never let anyone tell you it can't be done. And if they try, weed them out, prove them wrong, right? Again, my parents were very skeptical. They were very cautious. They were very worried, but they weren't like telling me I'm going to fail. So there's a big difference there, right? So they're still in that support system. And lastly, I would say this: take care of your own mental health. You can't push forward if you're not okay. Take a break when you need it. Rest is a right. It's not a reward. A lot of people get burnout because they think rest is supposed to be a reward for hard work. Everyone needs rest. So make sure you rest. There's nothing wrong with therapy, guys. And if you're not okay, reach out to your support system. So we've reached the end of this first little section. Again, if there are any questions, we can take a few, just type them into the chat box and Mike will ask them. So give you just a couple of minutes.
Yes, while students and teachers are thinking of their questions, I actually came up with a question myself. You say therapy is okay. Now, a lot of people, when they hear therapy, they hear counseling and other good nature, which is good. But what is one thing Jess Carson do to I guess that is therapeutic for Jess Carson? What is therapeutic?
Yeah, I mean, therapy can also be self-care, right? For me, sometimes I have a little projector that kind of projects the stars onto my ceiling. And sometimes I'll sit in a dark room with some music on and just like lay there for a little bit. Just give my brain a break, just kind of calm down. Sometimes it's as tense as me playing video games and just getting out of reality altogether and just taking some time away. I read a lot as well. And then on the other flip side of that, I go to therapy. I have a therapist. When, I go to her when things are okay. I go to her when things are hard. So it really depends on where you are in your mental state. There's not really a place where you don't need, or, a therapist would be useless, because there's only so much that like a human being can tell you, like a regular person can tell you, but a therapist is like trained to really help take you to that next level.
Okay, and then one more question. This is the big one now. What got Jess Carson into film in the first place?
that's a long one, but I would say simply it was my first short film came out of a time of very immense grief for me, and it ended up being cathartic for me. And then I kind of realized, well, if this could help me, if I could make someone laugh, but also make someone think about something they're dealing with and see themselves on screen, that would be kind of cool too. So it kind of became a self-fulfilling thing, and it kind of became a need to help other people feel like they're not alone, depending on what we're talking about, whether it's grief or family, or like me living a nomadic lifestyle or things of that nature. So I would say the inspiration to talk about stuff that's real, and this doesn't necessarily just mean like socially conscious things. This could mean something as simple like as general as depression, of talking about things that people can relate to.
All right, that's beautiful. And yes, like Jess said earlier, if you do have any questions, please enter it in the chat box, and if we can, we will definitely get to it. But now we're about to go on to Act 2. So Carson, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we've gotten to the point where we're gonna chat a little bit about how do we filmmaking. We're just gonna go through a section on filmmaking here, and then again, there'll be a couple of areas where there will be time for questions, yeah. So we'll start with this. Do you have a great idea? The first thing I would say is write it down. No idea is dumb. There's nothing that's stupid. Just write it down, because it may become something better down the line. I would suggest an idea journal, like a physical journal. Have a running Word document. I have a Word document that just says ideas, and then I have them broken down into tiers. I have an idea that says crazy, a document that says crazy ideas. I have one that says regular ideas, whatever. So just have your little running document. If you do something online, I would say save it in no less than 2 places. You can save it on your desktop, but also save it online in something like Google Drive. Just in case something happens to your computer and you can't get it back. I have been there. It is not fun. So once you have that idea, what do? How do you flesh it out? So we'll start here with this film here. This film really started out of a session of therapy for me. I went to therapy. I was having a hard time with something, and my therapist told me to write a letter to yourself. I don't want to read it. I don't want you to show anyone else. Just write a letter to yourself. And I'm like, okay, this is really stupid. I don't know what this is gonna do for me. But as I sat down, I started writing this letter to myself. I found myself starting to talk about the things that were bothering me, the things that I was actually really scared of versus what I thought I was scared of on the surface. So, I did that. And then, later on down the line, we had the pandemic. I wanted to do something here. And then I realized oh, hey, if I just turn this concept that I thought was something originally stupid into, I don't know, a video letter to some unknown thing, unknown whatever. At first it was like a video letter to herself, and then it changed to be a video letter to her mom until I finally settled on it being a video letter to her unborn child. You know, so once I found out I was coming to the idea, I had to figure out how am I going to flesh this out. So the first thing I do is I outline. Then this is if you're a writer. If you're not a writer, if you're finding someone else's idea or going to film someone else's idea, ignore this part. But if you're a writer, I would say outline. So find that order of events that you want in your film, put it on paper. Sometimes people just outline it just in random sentences. I personally outline it. You know how you have to outline your essays for a book report? I outline my films like that with the Roman numerals and the sub letters and everything. So what this does is it helps you early pinpoint any kind of issues there are with your story. And it helps you find holes and problems so you can visualize things better that way. So it makes going to the actual script page better. So what do you do? How do you create it when it's time to go to paper? The first thing I think about is character. My biggest tip on character, and this is whether you're writing something, whether you're directing something, don't think of characters as make-believe, think of characters as people. What's the personality like? Favorite foods, pet peeves, childhood crushes. I have a list of personality traits that I go through with every single one of my characters. Like this character, for example, she really loves wine. She works out regularly. She comes from a 2-parent home. So all of these things that really hone in to what makes her think and act the way she is part of her personality, right? So I have a running document, a living document on each of my characters. So again, if this seems weird to you, ask yourself, you know, what is it about you that makes you make the decisions you make? You don't just make a decision because of nothing. So think about your characters in the same way. Don't just create your characters, get to know them inside and out. It makes it easier to write them, because the biggest challenge if you're wanting to learn how to write is making a character sound like its individual person versus making a character sound like you, the writer. And I would say storytelling, think about in 3 acts. With features, it's 3 acts. TVs, or if you guys are doing web series down there, it works a little differently. It's usually like 4 to 6 acts. And then the last thing I would say with screenwriting here is that perfection is overrated. So get your story on the page, go from there. I would say rules are made to be bent, not broken, but they're only made to be bent after you followed them in the first place. Questions so far?
Yes, we do have another question. You mentioned about your characters. How do you find the quote unquote perfect actor in your eyes for your characters?
Well, that is, I would say this can be done in 2 ways. Sometimes I see kind of like I have an idea of who I want to work with or who I want to see in something. Other times I do it in the casting process in pre-production, which is the next section. And something clicks. So this goes with knowing your character inside and out, because if you know your character inside and out, you're sitting in the casting room, you're there all day, you're watching people say these sides. If you know your character inside out, you're going to know the moment that someone nails it. So it really goes, again, back to knowing your stuff, knowing your characters inside and out.
Okay, and then how relatable is the main character or any character in your films in direct relation to you as the writer?
It depends. This particular one, she is completely relatable to me because it's an actual situation I went through. But I got calls and texts from a couple of friends who their therapist had told them to do the same thing, and I had none of us had any idea that our therapist had given us this exercise. So it's okay to put yourself into your characters because it's going to relate to someone else, and it's going to help you maybe even think that, hey, oh wow, I'm more relatable than I thought. A lot of times most of the time it has to do with whatever the thing is about. I would say, I don't know, maybe 20% of my characters I feel like I can see myself in. except for like, you know, with the basic thing of like, you wrote a protagonist, is like, of course I see myself in the good guy, but like really truly see myself embodied in the protagonist, I'd probably say like, I don't know, 20% of the time.
Okay. Well, remember, guys, if you do have a question, please, please, please write it out in the chat and we will do our best to get to it. But now we will go to the next phase.
So now you've gotten your script written, you're ready to take it to do production. How do we go about this, right? What are the best ways? I would say the first thing to do is just plan. Don't just decide to do a film and go out and do it. Because, I mean, you may come up with something that's pretty good, but it can be even better if you go through all the motions, right? When you are looking for crew, for example, find reels. Like most people, and most of the people I worked with in Arkansas, I found them via watching their reels on like YouTube and Vimeo. I found my cinematographer down there, I found his reel, and it was amazing. And it seemed like the kind of stuff I wanted to do. But don't just find those real and those talent, find people who are like-minded, right? Because this is a team, this is teamwork. This is a collaborative process from beginning to end. Make sure that you're working with people that you like, that you want to work with, because it'll make the whole process a lot easier. Use what your crew has. If you find your cinematographer, he has a great camera, awesome. If your sound people have equipment, great. Whatever else you need to do something very, very, high quality, go ahead and rent. Don't think that you have to either buy it or not do it. Rent, because a lot of times you'll get some. I got a sound kit, a whole sound kit for like $60 for a Saturday that I was shooting. Whereas the value of it is a whole lot more, but since you're only renting it, it's definitely a lot cheaper. So you can do a lot of high quality stuff on super, super low budgets if you think about renting. And like we were mentioning before, you can either cold cast, which is just, you have someone in mind, you want to reach out to them and say, hey, I want you to do this movie with me, especially if it's local, can you do this movie with me? Or audition. I've done both. I love both. I'm passionate about both. Scheduling is key. If you're a director, that's awesome. You have your schedule, you have everything, you're the general, but make sure you have a line producer, someone in charge of making sure and approving schedules and things. Like have someone, if someone wants to learn how to be a producer, be like, hey, can you be my line producer? Can you make sure I'm staying on schedule? If you have a budget, can you make sure I'm staying on budget? That person is almost like your right-hand man, is gonna make sure things run smoothly. And the one thing I would say that I learned locally as time went on is that, there are location scouts down there. There are location scouts in Arkansas and in surrounding areas, not just people who can just go out and find something, actual people who want to scout locations. Use those people, because they're going to find hidden gems and places you didn't think you could shoot at. They're going to find if you don't have a budget, they can find the places you can shoot for free, and just location scouts. So that's pre-production. So when we get to the production, it's time to go to set, right? Know your role. Everyone has a role. This is a team sport. Are you directing? Awesome. You are the general. However, you need to be easy to work with, because the easier you are to work with, the better your project's going to be. I guarantee you, hands down, 100% of the time. So let's go through a couple of these roles. Like the writer, for example. If you did not write it and you're filming someone, directing someone else's script, bring that writer on. Help you look for inconsistencies. Sometimes when you have a low budget, they can both, look for those things and serve as your script supervisor, right? At the same time. Your cinematographer. Most of the stuff that you go through with your cinematographer should happen before you get to set. You should be with your cinematographer during most of pre-production, talking about the shots you want, scheduling, letting them know how much time they have to shoot something, right? Because they've got to set up, they know they need that time, to really give you something, and they don't want to feel rushed. But if you talk about it beforehand, if you have your schedule beforehand, they already know what they're dealing with, and they can give you the best work they possibly can in whatever time you have allotted. Same thing with sound and lighting. Let them go to the places you're going to shoot, so they can get a sense of the acoustics, so they can know how things are going to be, how much natural light's coming in. Let them have that time during pre-production, or during pre-production. That's the director's job, is to make sure everyone has what they need. Same thing with like assistant directors, script supervisors, other like PAs. All these people are useful. And if you as the director are easy to work with, not only are you going to find quality crew and get quality work, you're going to find people you can work with for a long time. For me, I personally say, Doing all these things makes your job as director easier when you get to set, because if you do all of that, the only thing you have to worry about when you get to set is the actors. That's it. You don't have to worry about sound. You don't have to worry about cinematography. You don't have to worry about lighting, because those people are doing their job because you've already agreed on what you have to do. So all you have to do is your job as a director and direct the actors. And finally, post, right? But the whole fix it in post, but like, do as best as you can during the production phase. Find your editor before post-production, because what you can do if you find your editor beforehand, you can give them dailies as you shoot. You can give them the footage when they need it. You can talk to them about what you see. You can even have them on set and like explain to them what you want. That way the post-production will be a lot smoother, because they already know what's coming. They already know, maybe they have stuff ahead of time and don't feel rushed. Again, every editor is going to have a process. So another big reason it's good to talk to your editor beforehand is, if nothing, for the simple fact that you want to make sure your process mixes with their process. If this is an editor who doesn't like directors all in the post-production house, but you're a director who likes being all in the production house, probably not going to work out. So make sure you get those relationships down packed before you even get to the step. If you're doing it all by yourself, that's great. You still need to collaborate. Find a colorist, find a cinematographer who can help you look at these things in post and be like, all right, this is a little off, or this is, something, can we adjust this? Even if you're editing by yourself, even if you're cavalier and want to do as much of this as you possibly can alone, you still need to collaborate with someone. Questions?
Yes, we actually have a few questions in the chat. First question is, how much work goes into preparing actors, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, so that's going to depend on you as a director. Each director has a different process. Personally, for me, I like working with my actors a lot in pre-production. So for example, with this short with Kim, my actress, especially since it was a one-person show, she and I met probably 3 or 4 times before we shot. The first time was pretty much just a general, how are you feeling about this? Is there anything that you're bumping up against? Do you not like anything? What's your vision? Here's my vision. Let's meet in the middle, kind of thing. And then the next couple of meetings, we really broke it down. We broke down the intention behind each scene. We broke down the arc of her emotion. Like, her emotion started at a very whimsical place, and then she got a little more, angry as time went on, and we found that peak. And, and the last part was literally a rehearsal. We went through it. We went through every scene, with me kind of starting with the directing a little bit, not a lot, but just kind of giving her the overall, notes on that. And then by the time, and I work so hard with my actors before pre-production, because for me, when we get to production, all I have to do is say action. I don't have to really do anything else. So yeah, that's my particular process there. But I know a couple of directors out here who the first time they meet their actors is on set. So, and they may rehearse on set and go through it that way. They usually have longer days, but if you have the time and the money for it, then sure. Yeah, so every person is different.
All right, then, and then what is a good camera for less than $5,000 that you would recommend?
There's a couple of Sonys that run for less than that. I personally use a Canon 5D Mark IV. I think it cost me $2,000, and I rent really good cinema lenses. They've shot actual films on the Canon 5D Mark IV using cinema lenses. So that's the thing I would say about a camera. You can get a pretty good camera and get the job done by renting cinema lenses. Cinema lenses usually run, a few $1,000, if not more, but you can usually rent them for a crap ton cheaper. So I would say invest in a fairly good Canon. Some of a Canon or a Sony that's under 5K. Make sure it's a good DSLR, used mainly for film, not for photography. And then where you want to put your focus into when it comes time to filming is renting things like cinema lenses to make it that high quality.
All righty. Thank you, Jess. And now let's go into the next thing.
Right. So now you filmed your movie. What do you do now? Well, I would say decide pretty early how you want to premiere. You know, do you want to try to enter into film festivals? Do you want public screenings? Do you want online premieres? So make that choice early. I would say probably towards the end of filming or post at the latest, create social media pages and only create pages for like where your market is. For example, this particular film, we only have an Instagram page. There's no Facebook, there's no Twitter for it, don't need it. Most of the people who have watched this or who have gotten the word out, it's on a festival rounds right now. So all of the festivals that are, you know, accepting it, they're all on Instagram. So I use it. So look to see, you know, what kind of market that you're looking for. If you're trying to get older people to watch it, maybe Facebook. If you're trying to get like millennials, Gen Z, I'd say Instagram. Twitter, you as a filmmaker should use, but for your actual films, probably not so much. And then get your people to spread the word. You know, make a trailer, have people share it, have your friends, family, cast members, crew, share it and get the buzz out before it's available. So there's, you know, a few different options of how you can get this thing out there. So film festivals, I would say, you know, that's one of the tried and true ways of getting eyes on your film. Producers lurk at these things looking for the next hot voice in the industry. They're always trying to find that hidden gem, and they go to film festivals to do it. And a lot of times they go to these short film blocks because they can see a lot of new voices in, you know, in one sitting. So with that, I would say this is probably the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, is never ever make a short unless it can be or is a feature, because a producer is not going to come and talk to you and say they want to buy your short. The first question they're going to ask is this a feature, or do you have a feature script? They're looking for that, or a TV pilot, you know, they might ask. So never ever make a short unless it can be a feature. And then be professional. Again, you never know who you're gonna meet at these festivals. Some people you might just be getting a drink with, and then you hit it off and they hand you a card and they work at Warner Brothers. Like, you never ever know at these things. They go to big festivals, they go to small festivals, they go everywhere. They're just trying to find that next diamond in the rough. And then I would say read the rules of submission. And I'll get into that in a couple of the other ones, but I would say, you know, a lot of these film festivals have submission rules. Like, you can't have premiered somewhere else, or you can't have shown it online or shown it in public. So make sure you read those rules, because if you don't and you submit it, they'll not only, you know, reject it, they'll probably like think you don't really respect their rules and not look at you in the future. Because that's how fickle this industry can be, not all the time. But I will also say that, you know, look at the genre of the festival. Don't just go to Film Freeway and submit to everything you can. Some festivals specifically want comedy or drama or sci-fi or horror. So be sure you're paying attention to that stuff. Public screenings, you got a lot of options here, right? And this is like showing it outside of a closed festival, you know, or an invite only. Usually it'll make you ineligible for top festivals. So if you want to get into a tier 1, which is like your Tribecas, your Sundances of the world, having premiered will make you ineligible for that film festival, because most of these are like Oscar qualifiers. Now it's less of a factor with short films. A lot of these don't have that premiere requirement, and they'll say, you know, no premiere requirement for shorts on there. So just read the rules and pay attention. Online, sometimes they consider online premieres, which I'll talk about on the next slide, as a public screening. So again, just scrutinize, make sure. And then venues are usually cool with you doing film premieres there. My first short film, actually 2 of my films, I did at the Rave in Little Rock, because I don't think it's called that anymore, but it was the Rave in Little Rock. And I did those there because movie theaters make most of their money off concessions. So if you want to show your film there, and that means they don't have to pay the rights for or give part of their money for this film to anyone, but they're going to make money off concessions, that's a profit, right? So sometimes, you know, with advance notice and with planning, you can do that, rent out a theater and do it there. And yeah, if you're going to do it, like, especially if you're premiering a short film, if someone's going to be there for 10 minutes, make sure you do it up. Like, do your little red carpet thing and your panel after the film and have a little after party, because, you know, people are going to watch a lot of people aren't going to come and just watch like a 10-minute film and then go home. So make sure you like make it a whole thing. And then online premieres. Again, sometimes these are also considered, public premieres on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Instagram. That's where you can do that. The really good thing about, YouTube and like Facebook is now it has the chat function as you're watching these films. And then again, it's a great opportunity to utilize that stuff and hold Q&As after, engage your audience. And there are some platforms that distribute shorts and that distribute feature films just from indie filmmakers. You just submit, it goes through a screening process and they will accept or not accept you. Now, the one thing I would say about these, just one note on those platforms, is make sure you thoroughly read the terms and conditions. So, because sometimes there are a few of them out there that, they have the rights to your film once you submit. So make sure you maintain all the rights to your project. So that's it. Are there any last questions?
Let's see. As we open the chat, just for teachers and students, Springdale Schools can help provide information for camera gear for an excellent price. Just email sbiazo@sdale.org for more info. There is one more question, Carson. What has been your proudest moment thus far as a filmmaker?
It's been a few. I would probably say...
Give us 3.
Jesus. I'd probably say the moment I felt the best was... Because again, like this process taking me about a decade. So I'd say the best was watching my first episode of Flash last year, and being able to. I was on a video chat with my parents, so watching their reaction when like my name came up was like really great. When we premiered the musical, because it was a whole red carpet thing. I'd never really gotten to do anything like officially like that before. And then we have a few attachments to my feature that I can't talk about right now, but. They're pretty big and I'm really excited about it. So I've gotten to meet and talk to them, and these are people that I've always like admired and have been a fan of. So that was also a moment where it's kind of like pinch me.
Okay. Is there a maybe a popular actor or actress you would want to work with in the future?
Yeah, I have a whole list. we're right now in the I don't know if I can say that. Right now, we're in the process of talking to an actress who just won an Emmy for my limited series. I think that's as much as I can say. But yes, I have a whole list.
All right. Okay, another question actually just popped up. What is a breakthrough moment for you as a professional where you were able to learn a valuable lesson?
I would definitely say the musical. I would say 99.999% of the people in this industry are absolutely some of the most wonderful people I've ever met, contrary to what stereotypes tell you. But there is that 0.1%. And I have worked with that 1.1% of not so great people. And I think that is the whole reason of learning the whole know yourself, know what you're worth, because I was very much kind of walked over in that sense, and there was a lot of really negative repercussions that came out of it. So the thing it taught me the most was, really make sure you stick to your guns, make sure you know what you're worth, and always know that you're not alone. Like later in the process, I learned that the person I was also working with was very much in my corner, but I didn't really speak up about anything. But once I started speaking up about everything, he's also in my corner and had a lot more influence than I did, and really kind of helped, broker the issues that we're having. So I would say, leave your ego at the door, lean on the people who have more experience than you, because especially if they have taken an interest in you, because those are the people who are going to help push you through the door.
All righty. Who are your favorite type of people to work with, and what departments do you want to work with more in the future?
My favorite type of people to work with are honestly just collaborative people, because what you end up finding when you're making a film is that you're not just telling someone what your vision is. Like this particular film, because of COVID, we had a very, very small crew. It was only me, the actress, the cinematographer, and she pulled triple duty, and then my editor. And I remember us being on a Zoom, just kind of talking about certain things we wanted to do. And it was such a relaxed conversation, and so many ideas from everyone's brains came out because we were so like collaborative, and everyone wanted to like bring their part to the table. So I would say the most collaborative people. And as far as like particular members of the crew, definitely my DP, my cinematographer, Sarah. I met her last year. I'm going to be working with her probably for the rest of my career. I speak in pictures and she understands them. So it works out really, really well. And she's just a great person. And I mean, I work with pretty much every department now. I would say once this feature gets off the ground, I really want to be more involved in the post-production of it all. Because that's a piece of it I haven't really gotten to really sit in on. So I'm looking forward to that.
Alrighty, and then, more questions. If there is one thing you will want students to take away, what would that be?
The biggest thing I would say is, one of my mentors told me this: you only lose when you quit. That's the most important thing. I take it with me everywhere. I talk about it all the time. This industry rewards the tenacious. And so as long as you keep going, you'll make it. So I just say you only lose when you quit. Don't stop, just keep pushing.
Alrighty. Well, if there are no other questions, Jess Carson, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure on behalf of Springdale OMAF 10, we really, really appreciate you, and we enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of Springdale.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, students, teachers, what Carson said, you only lose when you quit. And so let's keep that in mind as we continue to make this great art that we call film. And if that is all, everybody have a great night and keep filming.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.